And tonight on PM Express, a conversation about the fate of the Domikwa MP as Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin rules on the report of the Privileges Committee on Adwoa Safo's absenteeism in Parliament. As you may have followed, the report recommends that the Domikwa seat be declared vacant. But the Speaker says that decision must be subjected to a vote in Parliament. Well, the majority is tonight challenging the Speaker's stance on the matter. Its leader, Ayisha Ibrahim, has been expressing discomfort with the ruling he says doesn't sit with Article 97 of the Constitution 1992. The majority is threatening to file a motion against the Speaker's ruling. But what does all of these mean to the Domikwa seat? And that's what I'm going to be taking you through. So you may have followed conversations about what the majority is saying about the decision that the Speaker has taken. It's basing its argument on Article 97. What does Article 97 say at all? A member of Parliament shall vacate his seat in Parliament, A, upon a dissolution of Parliament, B, if he is elected as Speaker of Parliament, or if he is absent without the permission in writing of the Speaker, and he is unable to offer a reasonable explanation to the Parliamentary Committee on Privileges from 15 sittings of a meeting of Parliament during any period that Parliament has been summoned to meet and continue to meet, or if he is expelled from Parliament after having been found guilty of contempt of Parliament by a Committee of Parliament. These are some of the issues contained in Article 97, which the majority leader, Ayisha Ibrahim, bases his argument on. He also talks about the standing orders of the House, and he says there's a breach with that, with the decision of the Speaker. But where is all of this coming from? You recall that Speaker Alban Bagbin denied reports that he gave permission to Domikwa MP Adwoa Safo to absent herself from the House on health grounds. Now, according to him, it's not the Speaker who determines who's present and who's absent. The vote and proceedings is supposed to capture those who are present and those who are absent. So there were two other NPP MPs who had absented themselves from Parliament. And you remember Henry Korte, and you remember the Asin MP, Kennedy, Japan. All of them were cleared by the committee. Adwoa Safo was the one remained to be cleared. And as you may have heard the Speaker say, this decision needed to be taken because of the critical nature and the public interest. Tonight, I've been joined in the studio by George Hagan, ranking member and privileges, ranking member on the Privileges Committee of Parliament. I've also been joined virtually by Dr. Rashid Rahman, his Executive Director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs, and Ayisha Ibrahim, who is former MP for Tamale Central and also former ranking member on the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, joins us this evening. And just like the Speaker has been saying, this issue is critical and has public interest, and that must be carefully considered. Let's break it down for you after this break. Welcome back to PM Express. My name is Ayisha Ibrahim. Hagan, thank you for coming. And thank you, Ayisha Ibrahim and Rashid Rahmani joining us via Zoom. Of course, it was heated in Parliament on the floor of the House today. This is how it unfolded. Let's get snippets of it, then we can follow the conversation.
The House has been deeply divided over what should happen to Domikwa MP Adwoa Safo after it was established that she absented herself from Parliament for more than the constitutionally allowable days. The Privileges Committee recommended that her seat should be declared vacant. The majority held the view that the committee's report must be final. The minority disagreed. The Speaker has now made a decision.
It goes without saying that the preliminary objection of the majority leader to the admissibility of the motion for consideration of the report of the committee is hereby dismissed in limine. Representation is so crucial that it cannot be left to the subjective view of any person or group of people, but the whole House. And with your own earlier statements that we made in this House relating to this same thing, very inconsistent. To that extent, Mr. Speaker, I'm serving notice. We know what to do. We come with a substantive motion to challenge your ruling, which I find very obsequious. Very obsequious. And it doesn't sit in this House.
This response from the majority leader generated some exchanges between him and the Speaker.
That word, offense against the Order 93, and I'll ask you to withdraw that word and apologize to me. Is it the first time the word unfortunately has been used in this House? Or you want to reset the rules of this House?
So you had the Majority Leader, Chairman Sabonso, arguing it out and challenging the decision of the Speaker of Parliament. Thankfully, one of them is here. He's actually the ranking member on the Privileges Committee. So, Richard Hagan, you worked on this whole, your committee worked on this, and that has led to the decision of the Speaker. What really went into it that has actually led to this decision?
Thank you very much, and good evening to your viewers or our viewers and the colleagues that you have, I believe, on Zoom or somewhere. On Zoom. Yeah. And first of all, let me put it on record. I think this information has been going on that the committee has recommended that Honorable Adwoa Safo
seat should be declared vacant.
There is nothing in a report that actually makes that recommendation.
But the chairman of the committee states categorically so.
It's been a talking point by the chairman of the committee and other members of the privileges or the majority who are saying these things. But I have the report here in my hand.
What does the report actually say?
There is nothing in the report that actually say that. I think this is a public information now because it was put, so I can actually just, you know, the last bit of it. Yeah. Basically, it has two views. And obviously one view is that of the majority view, and then the other is the view of the minority.
Okay, that can happen.
Yeah. It says here, let me just read the last bit. By provisions, I believe that's the right one, yes. By the provisions of Article 97(1)(c) of the 1992 Constitution, the onus is on Honorable Adwoa Safo to provide a reasonable explanation to the Privileges Committee why she shall not vacate her seat. Okay? For having absented herself for 42 sittings during the period under consideration. Now, 9(2) of the same conclusion says the minority members of the committee conceded that reasonable efforts were made to get Honorable Adwoa Safo to appear before the committee. However, the minority members are of the view that lack of response of Honorable Adwoa Safo to the numerous invitations of the committee should be reported to the House without conclusion. So basically, what we said or what we agreed on is that we were not able to meet Honorable Adwoa Safo. And for that matter, we are reporting back to the Speaker or to the plenary that we were not able to reach her. And some of the things that happened was that we said, look, natural justice suggests that if you are not able to hear her, you cannot actually punish her. And it's up to the Speaker then to decide what the next step, you know, is. But when the report came out, or even before the report came out, there were a lot of talking points, as you rightly mentioned, my chairman, you know, that she should vacate her seat or she's going to, and he actually went ahead to say that we are going to inform the EC and all that.
But that same rule that you're referring to, that has led to this inconclusive decision, the natural justice rule says that if you give the person opportunity and the person refuses on countless number of occasions to honor that opportunity, then that person has missed it.
Well, you know, you said refuses. Okay. I mean, there is no proof here that she has refused.
What has happened over the period?
Nobody knows.
Did you invite her?
We have invited her on numerous occasions.
And what has been her response? Why she hasn't been able to meet you?
She's not even come back to say that I'm coming and she didn't come, or I'm not coming.
Okay.
It's been complete silence.
And you think the committee should take it kindly with that?
That is where it is a decision that should go back to where the referral actually came from. Okay. And that is the Right Honourable Speaker. And we cannot declare her seat if it's going to end up that a determination will be made out of any recommendation given by us. That has to go through some deliberation and debate. And this is what the Speaker is referring to. That 30 or 31 of us cannot make such a critical decision for a member of parliament to, you know, lose their seat, whatever the reason is.
Okay, but the majority leader actually cites Article 97, and you rightly said 97C, which indicates, and just for purpose of reference, let me quickly read that Article 97 1C. It says, if a member of parliament is absent without the permission in writing of the speaker and he is unable to offer a reasonable explanation to the Parliamentary Committee on Privileges from 15 sittings of a meeting of parliament during any period that parliament has been summoned to meet and continues to meet, or what does the standing order... So he also talks about the issue, the standing orders, what the standing orders also provides on the same thing. I want to understand what the standing orders say about this. Well,
it's pretty much along the same lines on 16.1C, 16.1 actually.
Okay.
Pretty much is on the same line.
Yeah.
But when you go to 18 says, and 18 is the one that it's quite critical here. Because to declare a seat vacant and actually go ahead to do anything means that you have the power to actually do that declaration. 18 says that the seat of a member shall be declared vacant by Mr. Speaker under 1B to H of Article 97.
Okay.
So the point we are trying to make here is that if you don't have the powers to declare someone's seat vacant, you cannot go about talking about it. Our job was to make a recommendation, and that is what we have done. And this should come as a motion. It's the issue of admissibility, what brought this whole speaker's ruling.
Okay.
Whether, you know, we will admit this as a motion. In that case, we will deliberate and debate it, or it should come as just an information, which means that the Privileges Committee has the power to actually declare a seat vacant.
Okay. Well, Safo has also joined us. He has been the ranking for the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs. Of course, this is the Speaker's ruling versus the constitutional provision and the standing orders of the House. Honorable, I'm grateful that you joined us, but what's your own reading of this whole decision by the Speaker? Was he right or wrong? Kindly unmute for me. Zenith of Sani, kindly unmute.
Can you hear me?
Great. Loud and clear.
So I say good evening to you and my colleague, Ricketts, the ranking member of the Privileges Committee. Indeed, I have said on numerous occasions that when you look at Article 97, the preambular statement is mandatory, forceful. The words jump at you. The seat of a member of parliament shall be vacant, shall be declared vacant. If, then you have the conditions to be met.
Yeah.
if that member of parliament is absent from parliament without the speaker's permission in writing and cannot provide a reasonable or has not provided a reasonable explanation to the Privileges Committee for absence from parliament for 15 days or more within a session. Now, so you will find that that provision is self-contained. It's self-contained. It names the committee, and the referral to the Committee of Parliament cannot be to any committee but the Committee on Privileges. If you want to understand the argument I'm making, just look at the next provision, D. Article 97(1)D. If found guilty of contempt by a committee of parliament. Now, by practice and convention, the committee of parliament that finds a person guilty of contempt is the Privileges Committee.
Okay.
But indeed, the Privileges Committee is not named. Now, I have, and you have to look at the Constitution as a whole. When you read the Constitution as a whole, you realize that the drafters of the Constitution did not shy away from vesting responsibility in a committee or institution to be the final determinant of an issue. We all know if a case starts from the High Court, you have a right of appeal to the Court of Appeal.
Absolutely.
You further have a right of appeal to the Supreme Court. But Article 99 tells us that when a petition challenging the election of a member of parliament is initiated in the High Court, it ends at the Court of Appeal. Did the drafters make a mistake? A person hasn't the right of appeal after the Court of Appeal. Now, when you look at the provision that allows the Minister of State in charge of finance to draw from the consolidated fund, a request to draw from the consolidated fund is referred to the Committee on Finance, and their decision to reject or accept the request or honor the request is final.
Correct.
When you look at the Constitutional, Legal, and Parliamentary Committee, the decision of whether or not a bill submitted to Parliament by the executive is of an urgent nature is conclusive. So reading all these provisions of the Constitution together, I take the view that the Supreme Court, in the case of Article 99, doesn't sit as appeal on the decision of the Court of Appeal in an election petition challenging a member of parliament's election.
Definitely so.
I take the view that the plenary of parliament does not sit as a review of the decision of the Privileges Committee under Article 97(1)(c).
Okay.
Because if it were so, it will lead to an absurdity. For instance, if the Privileges Committee, upon referral of the conduct of a member of parliament, breaching Article 97(1)(c), considers the circumstances and accepts the reasonable explanation given by that defaulting member of parliament,
okay,
to be reasonable, and reports to parliament, can we say that parliament can debate the explanation given by the member of parliament to the privileges committee and reverses the decision of the privileges committee in respect of the members' explanation which they found reasonable?
But in many of the decisions that are referred to the committee, it finally comes back to plenary. Why is this different?
So, again, you have to look at the Constitution. The Constitution has provided a general rule and also provided for exceptions.
Okay.
The general rule, and I think it's captured in Article 107 or so, 107 or 117, I mean, it's a general rule. And it's also in the 107. There's a general rule that where a matter, underlined, a matter is referred to a committee of parliament, underlined. The committee shall deliberate on the matter and report to parliament. The referral and the report of the committee shall be the subject matter of debate on the floor of parliament. That's a general rule. The exception is where the Constitution has vested authority. For instance, the ranking member has said, and I agree with him, that the chairman of the Privileges Committee has no power to declare a seat vacant. The chairman of the Privileges Committee, when they consider the conduct of a member of parliament in regards to Article 97(1)(c), and make a determination, that determination would be in the report that they have produced, and recommend to the Speaker, if the determination is to the effect that the seat be declared vacant, they have to make that determination of whether or not the explanation was reasonable. And if the explanation was not reasonable, this is their determination. They have to, it's a duty. It's a duty imposed on them by Article 97(1)(c). It's a duty. And if they make that determination, they then recommend to the Speaker to declare the seat vacant. Mind you, the Speaker is not a member of Parliament. He presides over deliberations in Parliament. And so when the committee makes that determination, the Speaker is enjoined to tell the members of Parliament the determination of the committee and the recommendation to him to declare it vacant and what he intends to do.
Well, the member of that committee says they did not categorically say that the seat should be declared vacant. What was reported was actually an inconclusive decision. And so in this situation, what is the Speaker supposed to do?
That is the problem. So the committee refused, neglected, or failed to arrive at a decision. And I had the question you asked the member of Parliament. The rules of natural justice, and it is contained in Article 97(1)(c). The reasonable explanation required of the defaulting member of Parliament is to satisfy the oldie alterum partem rule of natural justice, here the other side. But that does not mean that the balance of power shifts from the committee to the defaulting party. If the committee takes all reasonable steps to make sure that the defaulting party has notice of the sittings and the invitation and refuses, neglects, or fails to appear, you have satisfied the oddie alterum partem rule.
Correct.
And so I am surprised that in this particular case, Parliament decided that the defaulting party should have authority, to hold the sway, to keep them from performing their duty, to keep them away from meeting the mandatory requirements of Article 97(1)(c) of making a determination. And that, for instance, if Inus Afesene were a member of Parliament, the Inus Afesene breaches Article 97(1)(c), the Inus Afesene fails forever to appear before the committee. What records is saying is that the committee will not be able to make a decision because Inus Afesene has not been given an opportunity to be heard. It is ridiculous.
Interesting. Interesting explanation there. Let me bring in Dr. Rashid Rahman. Doc, we've been in this together since it started. Now, the Speaker seeks to settle the matter once and for all, especially when he says it has public interest and therefore it must be put to rest. Today, you've heard what transpired in Parliament. How does this come across to you?
Thank you very much, Ayisha, and a hello to my senior colleagues there. I think, let's put this on record that this Parliament and the Right Honorable Speaker Alban Bagbin, I think, have traveled a very far distance in terms of dealing with this absentee issue. More than any other parliament under the Fourth Republic, because in the Fifth, Sixth, Seventh, and even if you go further down, this issue has been with Parliament. And no speaker has been able, if I recollect correctly, maybe my seniors can correct me since they have been in the House. No speaker has taking this to the level where the Right Honorable Alban Bagbin has. We were all very excited, particularly watching Parliament carefully and watching to see how it was going to regulate itself on the back of, all the previous attempts and all the previous work that the Privileges Committee has done related to other matters. But Ayisha, what is becoming clear to me, I don't want to go back to the explanations and the legal arguments made by Honorable Inus Afesene, repeating 97 of our Constitution and then Order 18 of our standing orders. But suffice it to say that it's becoming clear that when it comes to regulating itself, Parliament is continuously failing the people of this country. Because how can a Privileges Committee meet on this matter that the Right Honorable Speaker say is of a lot of public interest, provide all the opportunities that they can in today's technological era in which we live, and the member refuses to take advantage of all the opportunities that were given to her, and the committee is comfortable that this is okay. this is okay and we can take it like that. And we gave her the opportunity. She didn't take the opportunity. And then she's not in contempt of Parliament. I find it very difficult to understand. And then again, Ayisha, the second aspect of it, and this is coming as a surprise to me, the report that the honorable member is reading from this evening, because all along, of course, without seeing the report, the impression that all of us got, particularly because the chairman came out and made pronouncements at the time this report was not a public document. I think we all believed that that was the conclusion of the committee. And I find it very, very difficult to understand how senior parliamentarians would sit and work at the level of a committee, and then we are hearing different conclusions that are completely different from the report that the committee has put together. All this to say, I think it's an indication clearly that we cannot rely on Parliament to regulate itself. And let me go to the framers of the Constitution. You know, as the Right Honorable Speaker said, declaring a seat vacant and denying a people of representation is a serious matter. And this is the first time that this has been put to a real test. And it looks like we don't have the courage to walk that path, to its logical conclusion. And that is why, Ayisha, if you go to a number of Northern European countries in their parliaments, they completely avoided going that route. So the options that they have adopted, I believe, knowing that perhaps they cannot regulate themselves and they cannot be harsh on their fellow members, they adopted the financial sanction kind of model. When you are absent from Parliament for a number of days and so on and so forth, I think you get punished by the financial kind of benefits that you receive from Parliament. And
are you suggesting that given our situation, we should consider amending our constitution and adopting this kind of style?
Well, I believe, it's becoming clear that we cannot rely on Parliament to travel this route, because what is appearing to me is that, when issues like this come before the House, and given all the arguments that we are hearing, it looks as if at different times there are many considerations that are taken into account apart from the spirit and the meaning of the law. Because the common question that everybody on the street is asking is that why should the MPP be wanting to expel the member from the House, and the NDC is against that? I think that's a basic question on the tongues of many Ghanaians on the street. And so I think the only answer that we can deduce without knowing, going into the heads of the two caucuses, is that this is simply about balance of power. And if indeed that is the case, then really more and more is becoming clear that this article in our Constitution is a top candidate for any future review of our Constitution.
Okay.
Because this is not the first time maybe we might be having a hung Parliament. And I believe perhaps we might want to take a second look at this and then choose perhaps the path of least resistance that most European parliaments in their wisdom have chosen to regulate matters such as this one amongst themselves.
Mr. Ketegan, your colleague Inu Safo is actually disappointed in your committee for, being inconclusive, or he says that you haven't been firm on this matter. How do you give the power that you have as a committee to the defaulting party?
I think we need to look at this in some perspective. First of all, this is pretty much a young democracy and a young parliament. Where we are now, we've never been there. The hung parliament.
We are up to 1, 2, 3, 8th parliament. Are we still young?
We're still relatively young with the kind of comparison that Dr. Rashid was making.
Okay.
You know, and that this is probably the time that this constitution is actually being tested. Because many a times things have gone through without any serious challenge because of the nature of or the kind of balance that we had in Parliament. This is the first time that a lot of things are being tested. I mean, I have been in Parliament, I think this is my 3rd term, and I have never seen such a heated Parliament on day 2. This is day 2.
Okay.
You know, so I think it's an opportunity for us, and I agree with him, that a lot of the provisions in the constitutions that will be tested as we go along. This is not going to be the first and the last hung parliament. Will be tested, and probably that will be an opportunity for some of these provisions to become candidate for any future, you know, revision. Now, from what I disagree with Inisa on what he said. And
on what particularly?
Well, that we were not able to make, you know, a firm conclusion.
But you alluded to that fact.
But then I don't see that as a firm or not a firm conclusion. Okay. You know, a conclusion has been made. You know,
which is inconclusive.
Yes, does not make it a weak conclusion.
Okay.
Because there's a background to this. There's a different, as I said earlier, there's difference meeting with the people that you haven't heard about Honorable Kennedy in Japan and Henry Courtney.
Yeah.
Because we met them. And some decision, we arrive on some kind of a determination or some kind of a recommendation.
I believe your committee has rules and regulations guiding how the committee should do its work.
Absolutely.
So much so that if you've been giving, and this comes to the fairness that Sainu Safo is talking about, you're supposed to deal with the person. You've given her all the opportunities that she needs to appear before the committee. Her other colleagues have taken that opportunity and they've appeared before the committee.
Absolutely.
Are you saying that the committee cannot take a firm decision?
As I said, we are in more or less a new kind of territory on this issue. So and I do agree with Speaker, and as he rightly said, that this is a critical issue. That where we've gotten to is not an issue or a decision to be made by 30-odd people out of 275 members of Parliament.
Okay.
Because we have, and there's nothing wrong with us failing to reach a decision.
Okay.
There's nothing, I don't see anything wrong with it. It's not
even if you have all the opportunities to reach a conclusion?
Well, all the opportunities is basically relative here. Okay? There are provisions in the law as to how you reach someone to serve them and all that.
Okay.
We have completely failed to reach the Honorable Lady. We have never arrived in this area before.
Okay.
And for me, I'm not a lawyer, but for me, in my mind, it is only fair that the matter, and we should not be ashamed to say this, that the matter has actually gone beyond the current powers of the Privileges Committee, which has not been tested to this level before. And it is right, for that matter, to go back to the plenary for that determination to be made by the whole House through the process of deliberation and debate on the recommendations that whether they are inconclusive or conclusive. There is a recommendation there to make a determination on it, and then the Speaker will obviously, end up doing whatever the Speaker has to do. I am a bit uncomfortable that if we had said at the committee that, look, we have been given the powers to do this, let's arrive at a conclusion. That is what is expected of us. So let's come to some conclusion, even if we are not sure of it. We are putting our hands up, not reason of incompetence, but we are at a territory that we've never been before. We've never actually been here before. This is how laws are looked at and how laws are reviewed and how laws are changed.
Okay.
What we are doing is for future generations to come and have a look at. And we have to make sure that we get it right, because as Doc said, this will not be the first time we will have a hung parliament. This will not be the first time that people will be absent and they will be put before the court of parliament.
Isn't it why you should actually take a decision on this to serve as precedence?
It's a process. And this is the last leg of the process where, look, this thing could end up in the Supreme Court. Parliament makes laws. We are not interpreters of law.
But you are a master of your own game.
Well, that's what we
And
think.
your work is closed doors.
Well, time and time, things are coming out to show that whether we are masters of our own game or not.
But that's
because
been your argument all out.
Well,
I remember the case of Justice Abdullahi.
Absolutely.
You argue that the Supreme Court has no business in interfering in your issues.
But then,
why do you need the Supreme Court now?
But then this particular parliament has shown that, or events of this parliament has shown that we have certain things, other things that went to the Supreme Court. So the whole thing about being masters of your own rules and all that, everything here is being tested at the moment. And I want us to see the process and then be able to make corrections along the line, rather than to say that, look, this sits with us, let's deal with it the best way we know how, and to be seen that we have actually dealt with the issue.
Well, your colleagues in the majority said they intend to file a motion against the Speaker's decision. How do you react to that?
Well, if they do it the right way, they have the right to do that. I mean, they are not challenging, if they want to challenge the ruling, which I think was what happened, earlier on. The Speaker actually pointed the majority leader to the right process. And I believe that is what the advice they have taken. It is in their constitutional right to do that. So this is how we are evolving from all these things. These things have been lying down quietly in Parliament for 30 years, which is the Fourth Republic.
Okay.
And now this hung Parliament is basically, probably, as I said, I'm not a lawyer, but it is exposing some of probably the weaknesses we have in our Constitution.
Mr. Yusuf Hussaini, so this is it. The majority says that it's going to file a motion against the ruling of the Speaker. Would that make a difference?
Well, that is the procedure where a Speaker makes a ruling or a determination and you disagree with that determination. You file a substantive motion to challenge the decision of the Speaker. But you require 2/3 majority to overrule the decision of the Speaker. It's a very tall order. I'm not sure Chief Minister Bonsano, he knows the implication of what he is saying. It might be on record that the decision of the Speaker was challenged. But to get a reversal, why, it will like sending a camel through the eye of a needle. Now, at a time I listened to my colleague, ranking member of Parliament, I get the distinct feeling that they are running away from something that we don't all know. Precedents are created when new situations arise, so that you give directions to future generations as to how the situation was dealt with. Nobody is saying that they should have found Adwoa Safo guilty or punish her for dereliction of duty. And talking about dereliction of duty, Article 97(1)(c) frowns on dereliction of duty, and I agree with the Speaker, except on different grounds. That representation is so important. It's so important in the 1992 Constitution, in this current political dispensation, that the framers of the Constitution are prepared to sanction, to give the highest form of sanction to a member of parliament. That is, declare that member of parliament seat vacant. That should tell you the premium that the drafters of the Constitution put on representation. And so, if a member of parliament, having been elected to parliament to represent his or her constituents, decides to treat his constituents with impunity, that member of parliament ought to be sanctioned. Indeed, the Constitution also anticipates that there could be circumstances, situations, that will make a member of parliament absent him or herself from parliament for more than 15 days. That is what we are not looking at. If a member of parliament under Article 97(1)(c) wants to absent him or her.
All right, so I believe he wants to talk about, if he wants to absent for more than 15 days, then there must be a reason or must be given permission. Okay, I'm told Mr. Yusuf Hussein is back. Kindly unmute for me, Mr. Yusuf Hussein.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
So that member of parliament, that same provision of the Constitution, Article 97(1)(c), enjoins that member of parliament to obtain permission in writing from the Speaker to so absent him or herself from parliament for more than 15 days.
16 days.
So there is no rule that says that a member of parliament cannot absent him or herself from parliament for more than 15 days, except that has to be with the permission of the Speaker. So if a member of parliament decides to flout Article 97(1)(c), do we treat that member of, in fact, that's contempt of parliament.
That member must bear the brunt and must not be treated with kid's gloves. So he says that he thinks there's something that your committee is hiding.
Well, I don't know of anything that we are hiding. I'm not hiding anything. I don't know anyone who is hiding anything. And then he's actually right that, you know, it's not about just absenting yourself from parliament for 15 days and you have to vacate your seat. If you can absent yourself for the whole meeting.
But with a written permission. In this situation,
we are here,
we've not seen that.
Yes, we are here because of this written permission. There have been people who have been out of parliament due to illness for much longer than that. Nobody has heard about their case. We are here because of the written permission that these three honorable colleagues did not seek.
From the
Not
Speaker.
even granted.
Okay.
They didn't seek it for it to be granted. And that is why we are here. Now, as I said, we have basically exhausted all the avenues
available to you.
Available to us. And we've gotten to a point on the committee where this issue, the difficulty is that we were not able to reach we never even got anything from her to say that, look, you can look at it in many ways. But we didn't even if I had received something from her to say, I'm coming and I didn't come, you know, and then, or I'm not going to come. Then
did you have indication that your invitation had reached her?
As I sit here, we cannot even determine that.
Well,
because she was not in the jurisdiction.
Okay, but I mean, in this world of technology.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we offered her Zoom this if she wants to, you know, but we did not even get any response.
Any response from her. Well, let's wait and see how the motion against the speaker will go. And this, of course, as the speaker puts it, is critical and it's of public interest. We all want to know how it ends. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much, Mr. Safo and Dr. Draman. And thank you so much, Mr. Rickett Hagan. My name is Ayisha Ibrahim. Enjoy the rest of our programs.